and welcome. You're watching FYI. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. DRDO'S new COVID drug. This is what everybody's talking about on WhatsApp groups, on other forwards. Everybody wants to know, is this drug as big a game changer as is being claimed? Now, it's been backed by some of the biggest names in the country. Dr. Reddy's, DRDO, the Drug Controller of India has also given its clearance for emergency use, making it all sound very promising. But when is it effective? What is the science behind it? What is the evidence behind this drug usage as well? This is what we will break down for you on the show today. So let's get into our explainer. First up, what is 2-DG? Well, it stands for 2-deoxy-D-glucose, essentially a modified glucose, the type which so far has been used for some therapeutic value as an anti-cancer and an antiviral agent. Now, DRDO says it is to be used only as an adjuvant therapy, meaning it is an additional treatment to the already running treatment for COVID-19 in the country. It is only to be used in moderate to severe cases, not the mild ones. Now, this drug has been jointly developed by the DRDO, Dr. Reddy's laboratory, and now has India's drug controller's clearance for emergency use as well. And the company claims that it can be produced easily in huge quantities as well, which is a big plus for India. The drug essentially comes in a powder form in a sachet and is advised to be taken twice a day after dissolving in water for at least a week. But what exactly does it do? Now, the claim so far is that it leads to faster recovery of patients hospitalized with COVID. It also claims that hereby preventing the spread of virus, it's not just reduces the dependence of oxygen supplements, but leads to faster recovery as well. It also claims to work against all the mutants of COVID-19. Wondering how? Well, sample this. What exactly is the tech? Now, remember, I said that 2-DG is a modified glucose, so basically it looks like glucose but is not. Well, the virus, for multiplying fast in the body, needs glucose for energy. When the virus feeds on this modified glucose, or what many call pseudo-glucose, the claim is that it will get arrested, meaning it will stop from multiplying at that same rate. So you must be wondering, what is the evidence that this actually happens? Let's look at the clinical trials and what is that data throwing at us. The evidence so far is that the initial experiments found the molecule worked effectively against SARS-CoV-2. Then DRDO-DRL conducted phase 2 trials that was conducted on 110 patients. Phase 3 trials were carried out on 220 patients. And at the end of those trials, they concluded that they had relatively higher number of patients become free from supplemental oxygen by day 3 of the dosage. All right, that's all what we know about the drug so far, but we'll be discovering that in a lot of more detail by the senior scientist at DRDO. I'm very delighted to be joined by Dr. Sudhir Sharma. Thank you so much for your time, sir. We also have with us Dr. Dinesh Singh, Senior Director at Max Super Speciality. We have Dr. Sumit Ray with us, Head of Department Clinical Care at Holy Family. And we also have Dr. Yatin Mehta, Chairman at the Medanta Institute of Critical Care. Let me first go to the man of the hour. Well, lots of questions really, Dr. Sudhir, for you. First up, the thing everybody wants to know, has this been peer reviewed?
Well, the questions have been about peer review, but I must tell you all the data that has been submitted to drug controller has undergone their scrutiny completely. And the publication of the data is in progress. And one reason for, this at this pandemic, why we went for this emergency use approval was that we saw that our drug had some indication which really seemed to help the patients from, the oxygen dependence. And the data was initially telling that. And immediately, as soon as we got this piece of information together, we had to scramble it together for the benefit of the public. And the rest of the, all the data for the phase 3 clinical trial is also being, completely organized. And the peer review publication will be done very shortly.
Okay. The other thing, Dr. Sudhir, is that the number of patients it's been trialed upon, we have about 220 over here. Do you think it's enough?
Well, the number 220 was not given by us. We are not the, when the clinical trials happen, they happen with a complete protocol. And initially, we were given a few patients with permission to show the proof of concept in a few patients in phase 2. And then phase 2 dose ranging was suggested and permitted by the drug controller. And we continued with phase 2 by increasing the doses. That is called dose ranging. And when the results of the dose ranging were presented to drug controller, the results were so distinct and so significant. And all this, I must tell you, the phase 2 clinical study report was completely completed and also submitted to drug controller. And in that, what happens is, if your distinction between the two arms, one is the standard of care and the other is standard of care along with your drug, which is 2DG. If the distinction is very significant based on the statistical analysis, there is a power analysis which is done according to the guidelines. And that power analysis, if the distinction is quite good, it will give you a relatively lesser number of more patients which you have to try. For phase 3. So phase 3, we got the approval with the power analysis of 201 patients. And then the attrition rate, we took 10% as per the guidelines. And then 220 patients were tried.
All right.
Now, I must again tell that if in phase 2, our results were not very distinct, they were not as distinct, I would say, the significance in the power analysis would have gone for, the ultimate outcome of that phase 2 trial. If it was not so distinct, the phase 3, the number of patients increases from power analysis. So that did not happen because we had excellent results in phase 2.
All right. Okay. Let me take this forward and get in a word from Dr. Sumit Ray. Your thoughts?
See, I have a lot of faith in DRDO and its abilities and the Indian pharmaceutical industry. Having said that, this is not how science happens. You have to have peer-reviewed published articles. What were your targets? What were you targeting in reduction? Were you reducing mortality, oxygen use, ventilator use? What were the outcomes you were looking at? That should all be in the public domain, in the research domain. That has not been done.
I think they say in the research paper, if I can just button there, that this is basically to reduce the dependence on oxygen and for faster recovery.
It's a press release. Where's the publication?
Okay.
A press release is not research.
Okay.
I'm sorry to say.
Okay.
It doesn't work like that. Okay. So this kind of data, when you do not come public with the data, it becomes a problem. It became a problem with our vaccination program, and that's why there was vaccine hesitancy. And with this too, this is not the way science happens.
Okay.
Second is, this drug also has side effects.
Okay.
It has QT prolongation. Its effect on the heart.
Like what?
QT prolongation. It's a effect on the heart. So just proposing it and without enough research, it is not acceptable research.
Okay, let me get Dr. Sudhir to quickly respond to that, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, I would again, remind that this emergency use approval was taken. It is not taken based on completion of data, but there is an indication that the pandemic may be the patients may be helped in the pandemic. Second, what Dr. Sumit Ray is saying, that publication, the data, actually the press release, whatever figures we have presented, they have been submitted to DCGI after statistical analysis also. And publication, I reiterate, the hospitals were extremely loaded with the patients at the time when we were doing this, trying to complete the phase 3. And the data analysis is almost about to complete. Second thing is, in phase 2, the data has been completely submitted in proper form to the drug controller. And that is, these documents cannot be, you cannot take them non-seriously.
So
these documents
how
are
soon
also
can you
very
make
serious.
it public, sir? I think that's the question here.
Yes, within few days we are going to make it public, and believe me, we have submitted the data, whatever drug controller has seen. And also about QT prolongation. Also, I'll tell you, this was one of the concerns when we started, and the dosing was done in such a manner that we don't we have the maximum safety of the patients when we started phase 2. That is why we started at a very low dose. And this was based on the earlier clinical data which were in the public domain, published peer-reviewed papers. We took basis from that. We kept our dose lower than the doses which have been already clinically tested all over the globe.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying the side effect which could impact the heart is what Dr. Sumit Ray is saying. You're saying that the dosage that you have given will not have that impact. Am I reading you correctly over there?
I would say that in the clinical trials, we have taken this parameter very carefully. We have seen all through this clinical trial phase 2 dose ranging. And we have in the phase 3 also, we have this parameter analyzed properly. And there is no adverse event which is of concern. So we have
not in your trials anymore. That's what you're trying to say.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Dr. Dinesh Singh, your opening comment, please.
I have had a lot of experience of using this drug in brain tumors glioblastoma multiforme. In fact, I had done the dose escalation studies and deciding the maximum tolerated dose of this medicine. And I had used this dose till 300 milligram per kg body weight, which was not well tolerated. 250 milligram was very well tolerated by the patients. The half-life is about 63 minutes only. And as per this trial, the dose which is being recommended is only 45 milligram per kilogram body weight. So what I can say from the safety profile of this medicine at this low dosage is very safe to use, and with my experience of more than 100 patients, so myself alone, so I will be very comfortable using this dose very easily.
Okay, and these were all severe patients of COVID that you administered this dose on?
No, I had used them on cancer patients glioblastoma multiforme, wherein the maximum tolerated dose or the phase 2 dose escalation studies I had done.
Okay, but you've not done studies on COVID patients, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Yes.
Okay, let me bring in Dr. Yatin Mehta at this point. Sir, go ahead.
Yeah, see, I have the utmost respect for DRDO, what they are doing, and NMAS. I have been associated with them. They are good scientists. They are trying to do something good for the country, no doubt about that. But again, as Sumit rightly said, that there is certain procedure, certain way the whole thing follows. You do phase 1 trial, which is safety trial. You do phase 2, which is efficacy. And then you do large randomized trials, which RCT in a large number of patients in multiple centers, which is a phase 3. And then phase 4 becomes a post-marketing survey. So none of these have been published. I mean, unless they are published, the public domain, they will come afterwards. First, they come in the scientific domain, where the peer review, the reviewers review the article, and then they accept it with corrections or whatever for publication in a peer-reviewed, respected journal. And only then the things move forward. See, because of the pandemic, I'm finding that everything is on fast track. You know, before the press release happens, before the scientific publication happens, and the DCGI approves on phase 2 trial, normally DCGI would never approve on phase 2 trials. There is a gun against our head, I agree with that. But I think still we should follow the scientific process of how science is done, how research is done, how research is published, then the DCGI approves it, and then the drug is released. And after the drug is released, you study it in a huge number of patients, post-marketing survey. So I think we are getting a little too excited, in my opinion. I sincerely hope that the drug works well, but I think 220 patients is a bit small number of patients. And also this sort of thing without safety, as Sumit rightly pointed, QT interval is a matter of concern, which also needs to be studied. So you have, whenever you plan a study, you have primary endpoints and you have secondary endpoints. Primary endpoint in this case was subjective criteria of WHO scale of 1 to 10 of improvement in the patient's clinical condition, which is little growth. And secondary endpoints, which we really don't know. So it is little opaque. As I hope, like the co-vaccine, it comes out smelling of roses. But this is not the way it should be done, actually.
Okay, okay. I want to go to Dr. Sumit Ray for a question. Dr. Ray, I understand all the questions. I understand from what Dr. Mehta is also saying, that the fact that it should be available for peer review before it is actually released. Press releases are not enough. You need proper scientific data at this point. But the fact is that the drug controller has given its approval. And I mean, yes, we can debate that plasma therapy was given approval. People went to pillar to post. Now it's been withdrawn after so much time, energy, effort, money and lives have gone chasing them really. But is that what you're saying, that we shouldn't be rushing into this?
Absolutely, and there has been enough time for the pandemic. Research has been going on. The way the research has now progressed for most drugs has changed. In the initial phase of the pandemic, more than 1.5 years back, it was a different, altogether. I mean, the pace of research to do it, etc., was different. Now we do not need to rush into things. And as many of us had shouted ourselves hoarse, saying that plasma therapy most probably will not work, let us have more data. It was tom-tommed around and it was made almost political, as if it was this game changer, and there was no evidence for it. There was not strong evidence for it. And the same should not happen to this drug. It should not. This is not how science happens. It sounds very good on the media, sounds very good politically, that you have a game-changing drug, but you do not have evidence to say that it is game-changing. And then you will have make people run around like plasma for this drug. They will be running around the whole city and the country trying to get this drug, which will, wasting their time, wasting their energy, and there will, at the end of it, we don't even know if there will be enough evidence for it. And this is totally not the way science proceeds. We will be a laughing stock. I mean, our DRDO and our pharmaceutical industry are well known in the world. We should not make a mess of it and make ourselves a laughing stock by doing these things.
Okay. Dr. Sudhir, if I can come to you next, the first reaction a lot of people had, because this has been so widely shared on WhatsApp groups. Everybody wants to know, is this going to be the game changer? Is this finally where the solution lies? But there are lots of valid questions as well. If you've just heard Dr. Ray and Dr. Mehta point them out to you, how do you answer them really, please?
Yes, first of all, I also have respect for our colleagues who are airing this view. One thing I want to say is that just because some wrong examples have been set earlier, we should not presume that what has come out is also going to be wrong. We may have done very systematically, which I know that we have done systematically. We have followed all the procedures very strictly. And the notion here is that since there is no data published, there's something wrong with the data, which I don't agree with at all.
Then why not publish?
The data has been submitted to drug controller. We should also have some faith there. And I'm again reiterating that we are not only having this clinical trial data publication in process, we also have generated a lot of other evidences, which we have been continuously working on the labs, in the lab also, and also working to support the clinical
Dr.
data.
Sudhir, if I may, nobody's questioning this right now. People are only saying, give us more paperwork. Let us see what exactly this stands for, and it should be made public. I mean, the fact is we had the health minister and the defense minister come on camera and release it. That sends out an extremely different message to the people of the country when there are valid questions within the fraternity.
No, it's just that the data has been seen by drug controller, not by the public. This is where I am telling that we are making all efforts, because when you do peer review publication, that is not done for emergency use approval. Here, what we went for emergency use approval, and for the publication of the entire data, we are making very hectic efforts so that we can publish very soon. One thing is that the data has been analyzed and whatever factual has been presented. We have not told anyone that this is a game changer, but this is adding the benefit of whatever extent we have told that.
Okay, Dr. Ray has a rebuttal there. Please go ahead.
No, why can't it be more transparent? You see the approval process of the FDA for the vaccines, the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine. It was in the public domain. People could watch it live, what was happening. Why the secrecy? If you have submitted it to the DCGI, why can't it be published? I can't understand.
Dr. Sudhir?
No, Dr. Sumit, we are not saying that we are not publishing. I am saying that publication will come out very shortly. I never have we thought that it will not be published. It has to be published urgently. I agree with that.
All right. Could you give us a date there? Could you make us understand when this is likely to happen?
We are actually making all efforts to publish this within a span of 1 week. But the thing is that ultimately we also have to make it a good quality submission. So we are making all efforts.
Okay, so let me go back to the doctors at this point on a bit of a medical issue over here, okay? So things have heated up a little on the debate. Let's just take a deep breath and let's try and go back to the tech over here. Okay, so the 2DT, as I mentioned in the explainer as well, it's been used for anti-cancer, as an anti-cancer agent, as an antiviral agent as well. What does it tell us? It's used in the past. What does it tell us about what prospects it has for COVID? Dr. Ray, why don't you answer that?
Well, the evidence is very weak for its use in any way, not for COVID, but otherwise also for cancer. And basically what it does is it's like a dummy glucose, and the cells which are kind of replicating fast, and the virus where it replicating fast, it requires more glucose, more energy, and you are replacing that glucose with this dummy glucose, right? And reducing their replication. Sounds very good. Very interesting, but it hasn't worked. In any viral infection, the proof is not there. The evidence is not strong. Even for cancer, not taking anything away from Dr. Singh's work, work.
Yeah, he just mentioned that he's personally supervised.
Yes, he has used it, but what is the evidence that it benefits? Has he, has he had RCT, randomized controlled trials? Haven't proven it yet.
Okay, Dr. Singh, do you want to answer that, please?
Yeah. In fact, Dr. Sumit, there was an RCT, and it was a phase 3 trial in which Tata Memorial Hospital and 4 or 5 hospitals were involved. We did that in glioblastoma multiforme, and there we were able to get a median survival of 14 months, which was otherwise 3 to 4 months. So, and the safety issue was very well taken care of. None of the patients had any of the brain necrosis. Few of these patients, when they got recurrence, they were operated, and on surgery, all of them were subjected to histopathological examination, and not a single case of brain necrosis was there. This we did in 90s. This is a very old drug, and we find it very useful. And in fact, we were waiting, all the investigators in our phase 3 trial. We were very eager to use it in other cancers also, and but somehow it was not commercially available, so we were not able to use it.
Okay. I think what's been very fascinating in this discussion, and I have to wrap it now, is we got to hear really diverse views on this one. Somebody is a strong proponent towards those who are not really showing a lot of belief in this drug just yet. What we can't deny upon is more transparency in the data, really, to be out in the public domain and be peer reviewed. That's something I think all of us will agree upon. And Dr. Sudhir has promised that it's going to happen in a couple of days. So we'll hold you up on that one. That's it for today. We'll catch you again on the next episode. Bye-bye for now.